let's take a look at some charts on ZRX for the latest article on Brave New Coin. So ZRX was DeFi before DeFi existed, in that it is a protocol to enable decentralized exchanges. Now, there were some issues early on with use case for the token, governance, DEXs forking off, doing their own thing, which makes sense if you're a DEX, really. Why would you be beholden to other developers if you want to do your own thing a different way? Like, that's fine. So the idea is now with ZRX, the protocol, it sort of aggregates liquidity. It allows kind of any dApp to just plug into the ZRX universe and get access to order books or trading type stuff in a decentralized way. Now, DEXs have their issues: fees, front running, liquidity, volume. It's a bit limiting on listings. If it isn't compatible with ETH, it has to be, wrapped, or even ETH has to be wrapped, but wrapped BTC or ERC20 Tether, like, it has to be specific to the ETH ecosystem. And fees are a really big one because it's all on chain. So if on-chain fees are high or increasing, then the trader pays for that through the DEX side. So these are some of the DEXs. It's kind of irrelevant now, honestly. Like, yes, Radar Relay, some of these have come and went, some of the big ones. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is just this universe of API plugins that ZRX is compatible with now. And if we look at how it used to be and how it is now, it's just a bunch of individuals. It's truly decentralized in that manner. There isn't even a quote-unquote DEX necessarily. There's a protocol that aggregates and relays trades in a peer-to-peer sort of way that looks over everything, but there isn't necessarily a need for a specific exchange. I think the exchanges help with liquidity and volume and branding and that sort of thing, but really not needed. And again, just another way to look at this, it's just a back and forth system that has everything connected. And so you don't necessarily need an intermediary other than the protocol to like dictate what's going on. ZRX added staking, sort of tacked on a use case, probably because they kind of had to in order for people to hold on to it. There really wasn't a need to hold on to it. You don't use it for fees. You don't need it for fees. DEXs could opt into adding it for fees. They could make their own token. So it's kind of a mess. It's one of these things where, did ZRX actually need a token? Probably not. How are they going to raise money is the real question. If they don't have a token, how do you get VC money for that to raise for this protocol? The long-term roadmap is to become more decentralized. So a governance handoff from most of the people who control the protocol now to the community. I mean, that's always the goal for any project, is to raise a bunch of money, make something, and then hand it off to the quote-unquote community to make it decentralized. I wish them luck with that. I think it's a difficult task because you have to have buy-in, you have to have network effect, you have to have people who care about governance. And if there isn't enough people who care, then it's just going to dissolve into nothing. So if we look at the other coins with staking, some of the stats, ZRX, the purple one here, it's kind of at the bottom of everything. It isn't a traditional staking mechanism in that it's involved with consensus or anything. It's more involved with trading fees and relayers, but it's still paid out in ETH. So it's kind of weird. It's unique in that it's not paid out on its own token. I'm sure there are other networks like that, but none of them come to mind initially. Really the only category it's doing well in compared to its peers is Git commits. But it's kind of, you can't really compare it like ZRX to ADA or ZRX to Lisk. I mean, there's kind of two different things. One thing I will say is that many of these networks try to have their own DEX as well. That's kind of like the latest meme. It's masternodes, roadmaps, stablecoins, DeFi, and having a DEX on chain. So every coin is eventually going to have a DEX, at least for marketing purposes. Whether or not anybody uses it is another concern. But at the end of the day, ZRX is probably closer related to all of these than I think most people think. If we look at total volume over the past few years for just DEXs that are tracked we can see that USD volume has definitely increased, especially recently. It's basically sitting at all-time highs. So people are definitely using DEXs more. It costs money, so it's hard to argue that these are fake transactions. These aren't feeless transactions, right? These cost something. So it's hard to know. You'd have to really look at the volumes on these DEXs to see, is this transaction mining related? Is this fake volume? Is this exchanges pumping volume, DEXs pumping volume, to try to get higher on like the volume lists for exchanges, that sort of thing. But just at face value, volume is way up over the past few months, since February really. Although volume is up, trades per month is kind of down since December, January, and it's continued to decline. I think part of this is actually fee related. So you're seeing probably higher transaction values, but fewer transactions. That would be my guess, because fees have gotten higher each month. And right now, depth fees especially are extremely high on Ethereum. If we look at the transaction count on chain for just the ZRX token and the transferred value, it kind of echoes that same previous sentiment that the transferred value is increasing, but transactions aren't. They're increasing, but they're not increasing that much really. I mean, they're still within their range between 2 and 5K. They haven't really changed over the past couple of years. And I don't really think they ever will, because again, there's no reason to really hold on to the token. So this is a really tough one. The protocol is great. The idea is great. It has a use case. People are using it. It's interesting. It's unique. But does it need a token? I don't know. I don't know. I think the ZRX team tacking on use cases to get people to hold on to the token really kind of says it doesn't need the token. But if enough people think that the staking mechanism is valuable and useful, then ZRX value should go up. Other than that, most people trading ZRX are probably just speculators right now, and it's not, there's just no reason to hold ZRX. There's just no reason. Until there's a governance dispute, until there's a vote on something, there's just no reason to hold it. There really isn't. If you look at the NVT, it has continued to decline since the beginning of the year, and active addresses have continued to increase. Active addresses kind of sitting at all-time highs. This increase since January is probably related to the staking mechanism and not necessarily, anything exciting. NVT dropping says that the market cap has not adequately priced on-chain activity. So again, I think this is staking related. It's hard to completely parse this apart, but that would be my guess. All right, if we look at technicals, we have the 50, the 200, VPVR, yearly pivots, and RSI volume. So first thing that pops out to me is the price above all of this consolidation. So you can see it basically consolidated for a year and a half in this range, and it's above all of that now. That's bullish because this was either range or resistance, and it's past that. It's past this yearly pivot. So, I like returning to this previous consolidation around 65 cents, 70 cents, something like that, as far as a possibility for upside. There is a bit of a bearish divergence here. You're getting higher highs on lower volume and the lower RSI, so it's weakening bullish momentum for sure. 50 and the 200 are crossed bullish for the first time since 2018. So this is really a great picture for more upside just based on trend, even though the token existence is questionable. Cloud likes it as well. It's above the cloud. Cloud is green. The TK lines are close together. It's hugging the Kijun right now. As long as it can stay above this VPVR, this 32 cent level, if it can bounce on 32 cents a couple times, bounce on this yearly pivot, I think it's fine long term on the USD pair. If we look at the BTC pair, it's above the cloud, it's above the 200. That's just litmus test for bullish trend. Again, bearish divergence, lower volume, lower RSI on higher prices. It's kind of above this VPVR level as well. You can see you had your Atom and your Eve, and it's kind of struggling to break out above 4,300 sats. It's really the key level. I don't think 5K is going to be much of a deal. What I'm seeing is 43 to 65, this volume zone, this previous low. So this low, this low, this low are all going to be horizontal resistance going forward. But based on trend and based on this chart pattern, it looks like it wants higher. It looks like it wants 6.5, 7, 8, something like that within the next few months.